Hi everyone, and we are back with another video. I am SerenaTheJournalist, and we have something very interesting coming up. It's so weird. I feel like sometimes women don't have a break, but then some things look good when it comes to women's rights and abortion rights and just women's privacy and safety in general. It's very, very up and down. But in this video, I'm going to discuss Britain's recent law change when it comes to abortion, as well as how some of our apps are really getting into our business. I'm SerenaTheJournalist and hope you like this video. As you can probably tell by this title, I'm going to be explaining and exploring how the digital age is growing at the expense of women's bodies, health, and privacy. This is more in relation to abortion and period tracking, which if you haven't seen the news headlines because it hasn't been highly publicized, then this may come as a shock to you. In the US and the UK, regarding abortion laws, and also just given some context about the history of abortion, because I do think it's really important, as there is a lot of discussion out there regarding abortion. Many people don't really know what areas or what countries or what states allow abortion and what don't. And up until literally last week, there was a change in the UK, which I will hopefully be able to discuss in this video. Going right into it, it was recently reported that in January of this year, there was a guidance that was released by the National Police Chiefs Council in the UK that states that women who experience a sudden unexpected pregnancy loss will be investigated by the police if they suspect it's a miscarriage, stillbirth, or early labour as a result of an illegal abortion. Now, I know many people may be thinking abortion is illegal in the UK. Abortion is illegal, well, was illegal in the UK, and I will get into that. But if you're asking how the police would even be able to prove this, they released a new guidance. It will allow them to search your phone for period tracker apps and even have your phone searched for evidence of abortion drugs when an unexpected pregnancy loss occurs, which is expected to be from abortion. Like, I know some people didn't see that coming. This comes in connection with the Abortion Act introduced in 1967, which allows women to legally terminate a pregnancy up to 28 weeks and with the certificates of 2 doctors. In 1990, this limit was reduced by 4 weeks to 24 weeks. But under the 1861 Offences Against the Persons Act, abortion is still classified as a criminal offence in Britain, and women could be prosecuted. Until recently. Under this law, there have been 3 convictions, still a high number of criminal investigations for women who have suffered from miscarriages. This means that abortion is only legal under certain circumstances and is therefore not as accessible as it should be. In 2022, ministers tried to fight back on abortion rights when the Department of Health decided to revoke at-home early medical abortion, which was introduced during the pandemic. But this went against the advice of medical professionals and organisations. This also went against public opinion, as most women and people with wombs had the right to choose. And I'm sure we're aware that there's an unfortunate high number of people who like deciding on what women should do with their bodies. Now I'm going to pause and bring in some opinion real quick. I know some people maybe didn't ask my opinion, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. I do truly feel that women's health has been an afterthought in society for decades. Like, we only need to look at the fact that women weren't even mandated to be included in clinical trials up until 1993. Even today, there is an underrepresentation of women in clinical trials, which leads to a lack of data regarding sex, which then leads to a bigger knowledge gap on the impact of medication on women. 75% of trials don't even include women in them, and those that do include women don't even separate the data by sex, leaving the impact on women unclear. And then we find out that 80% of drugs that are withdrawn post-market are because of unexpected side effects on women. We don't know the most basic information, even though we have AI, ChatGPT, technology, talking robots, and everything besides what's necessary to keep women safe. So yeah, that was just an opinion, but we can just go back and base it on the facts. To even understand the data gap in women's health, we can clearly take the 8-year-long NHS waiting list for endometriosis diagnosis as a prime example. Last year in 2024, the charity Endometriosis UK stated that it takes an average of 8 years and 10 months to get a diagnosis of endometriosis. For those who don't know what that is, it is a disease where the tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside the uterus. Because of this, it can cause pain in the pelvis and make it harder to get pregnant. And you would think that with all the technology, it would be used for some good in the world. But no, we're just going to use it to, I don't know, have relationships with robots and all that stuff that's happening. I don't know. Like, we are deep in our digital era. Like, as I said, we have AI chatbots, we have self-checkouts everywhere you go. People are developing friendships with robots. We are here. You know that article that was like, in 2025, people are going to be having sex with robots? Like, I'm pretty sure some people are already there. I'm pretty sure. Like, we've even been using AI to help with our menstrual cycle. And so it is no surprise that the digital revolution on menstruation apps have arrived. According to 2024 research by Bupa, women have embraced digital healthcare, with 73% of women open to using technology to improve their health and well-being. Even when it comes to period tracking, an estimated of 50 million women worldwide use period tracking apps. Some of the bigger names are Flow, Clue, and Period Tracker, for example, where there are 250 million downloads altogether. Okay, I'm just gonna have to pause again. Does anyone remember that scene in Friends where Monica and Chandler are trying to get pregnant and Monica is trying to track her cycle through the calendar? Yeah, we don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. There's no way I'm using a calendar when I do have my app.
Until the 6th?
Yeah.
Today is the 6th.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's also 2003.
Oh my God. Today's the 6th? I may be done ovulating.
And last week, MPs voted on decriminalising abortion in England and Wales, with 2 Labour backbenchers putting forward amendments to govern legislation to change the law. Labour MPs Antoniazzi and Stella Creasy were believed to be putting forward separate amendments to decriminalising abortion and ending the prosecution of women who terminate pregnancies after the 24-week limit. In 2020, emergency legislation was introduced during the COVID pandemic. Instead of women seeking an abortion in the first 10 weeks of pregnancy, all they needed to do was just take a pill under medical supervision. And they could receive both pills by post after a remote consultation that I mentioned earlier. According to the Freedom of Information, 13 people made a first appearance at a magistrate's court charged with abortion-related offences in 2022. Then 4 people in 2019 and 3 people in 2020 and 2021. People are really getting prosecuted for abortion in the 21st century. And separate data from about half of Britain's police forces shows that at least 11 people arrested in 2023 on suspicion of child destruction or inducing a miscarriage, including a 31-year-old woman in North Wales who was reported to have taken illicit substances to initiate an abortion. Clearly the UK is in shambles right now, but it's not that better in the US either. Sorry US, you are definitely gonna have to catch a stray. We cannot talk about abortion without talking about the US. June 24th, 2022 will literally go down in history as the day the US Supreme Court decided people actually don't have a right to choose abortion without excessive government restriction. Since the decision dropped, there's been immediate outcry about how this will roll back rights, increase abortion stigma, and change lives, or in some cases end them. Abortion hasn't always been accessible to everyone, but it has been a legal right. When this happened, it was reported that 26 states certain or likely to ban abortion now that Roe versus Wade was overturned, leaving more than 36 million women of the reproductive age without care. Now, I'm actually going to break down Roe versus Wade because I feel like this has just been thrown around a lot and a lot of people may not know the history or even know why we call it Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade was a 1973 US Supreme Court case that established a woman's constitutional right to have an abortion. The case was brought by Norma McCorvey, who went as Jane Roe, hence the name Roe, who in 1969 became pregnant with her 3rd child. She wanted an abortion but lived in Texas, where abortion was only legal when necessary to save the mother's life. Her lawyers filed a lawsuit on her behalf in the US. Federal court went against her local district attorney, Henry Wade, and this is where Wade comes from, alleging that Texas abortion laws were unconstitutional. The parties appealed this ruling in the Supreme Court, and in January of 1973, the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 decision in McCorvey's favor, holding that the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides a fundamental right to privacy, which protects a pregnant woman's right to an abortion. But it also held that the right to abortion is not absolute and must be balanced against the government's interest in protecting both women's health and prenatal life. So we can really see where the lines can blur a bit, but this is where it comes from. Another opinion, not sorry. But this change happening in 2022 will only affect those who are less fortunate, because wealthier people will be able to just travel to a state where abortion is legal. And those who can't afford to travel will just be stuck, risk an illegal and potentially unsafe abortion, or get into debt trying to reach somewhere where they can access abortion services safely. The decision has serious 14th Amendment implications, because this is the amendment that protects the right to privacy, a right which is also wrapped up in decisions that protect gay marriage, interracial marriage, and the right to contraception, all which, like abortion, weren't mentioned in the Constitution. Celebrities have spoken out about abortion rights, such as Olivia Rodrigo during her 2022 Glastonbury set to speak out about Roe vs. Wade being overturned. And she brought out Lily Allen, and the pair sang F you to the Supreme Court. I'm devastated and terrified by the recent ruling, and so many women and girls are going to die because of this. I wanted to dedicate this next song to the 5 members of the Supreme Court who showed us at the end of the day they truly don't give a about freedom. This is what she said, guys, not me. This is what she's saying. Our bodies should never be in the hands of politicians. Jennifer Lopez also took to social media to call out the Supreme Court, saying on Instagram, "We are living in an America I don't recognize. I stand with you and women's rights in this country." And I get her, I get what she's saying, but I do feel like at the same time, America has always been this place, it seems from the outside, where things happen you wouldn't even believe. Like, I feel like so much has happened in America over the last 10 years that shows us this is the country that we always thought it was. It's just hidden. Kendrick Lamar also took the opportunity at Glastonbury Festival to comment on Roe vs. Wade being overturned as well. Wearing a crown made of thorns with fake blood pouring down his face, the musician chanted, "Godspeed for women's rights." Michelle Obama took to Instagram and Twitter after the US Supreme Court's decision and said, "I am heartbroken for people around this country who just lost the fundamental right to make informed decisions about their own bodies. This is what our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers lived through. And now here we are again." So it's mad. I think it also shows us that despite living in the 21st century where crazy things are progressing in some parts of the world, there is huge regression in other parts of the world. And there are high percentages of just outdated values that don't go with the way the world is meant to move forward. Since 2005, support for allowing an abortion if the woman does not wish to have the child has increased from 60% to 70%. So the fact that we're dealing with these abortions and these laws is crazy. The mere fact that organisations such as the British Pregnancy Advisory Service and the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists are still having to defend abortion regularly tells us we have not progressed at all when it comes to abortion, and that the collective liberation of women and people with wombs are still perceived as a threat by a small but vocal and powerful minority of people. But despite me raging about abortion rights, I do want to take the time to just kind of discuss what we can do to protect abortion rights in the meantime, because despite me in this video talking about it, there are people who are actually going through it, and this is their daily life which they have to experience, which I can imagine is scary. It's really helpful to give money to charities that already have such a great outreach, such as Amnesty UK Abortion Rights, and Humane Access UK, to name a few. Also, write to your local MP. You'll be surprised that if enough of us do it, it can lead to such great things, especially considering the bill just got passed last week. I also think that spreading the word about what is happening is important. Some of you may have already known about this issue towards the end of this video, but some of you may not be aware about anything and may have learned something, and it's important that we just pass on the message and spread the word to also avoid misinformation being spread, which unfortunately is very, very frequent in this day and age. It's also important to make sure you know what rights you have and what rights are available to you, especially if you're a woman. And even if you're a man, it's good to know what rights are available, because this rule does affect women in your life. This is not just a woman's problem, it's a society's problem. We need support of a bigger community, and the protests have shown if we really do come together, we can make big changes. We are at the end of my video. If you've made it here, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please do comment your opinions in the comment section below. I actually enjoy reading people's comments. Do be mindful about what you say, because this topic is very personal to some people and can maybe trigger some people, so please just bear that in mind. But thank you for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe. I'm on my way to 100 subscribers, so yeah, I guess road to 100 we go. I'm SerenaTheJournalist, and I'll be back soon with another video.